When it's not one of the circumstances where you left part of POLDACS out, remember you should include every part of the problem on, direction, at, city, lane, and slowdowns that are included in your report, unless it's long-term construction and it's extra details about crews working on building umbrellas and that kind of thing. But most of the time, anything given in your report should be stated. Though sometimes people get confused, and it's usually with the on and the at street. Usually you don't get the direction confused or the lane. Sometimes the problem can be confusing, sometimes slowdowns, sometimes there's ramps, but we'll get into detail on that. First, check out this picture. If you're in the right lane right here, what street are you driving on? You're on eastbound US 80. This sign says southbound 635, but this street right here isn't southbound 635 itself. It actually leads, though, to southbound 635. So what is it, you say? It's a ramp. There are three types of ramps. There's an entrance ramp, an exit ramp, and a ramp from one street to another. The entrance ramps and exit ramps are pretty easy. The exit ramp of US 80 eastbound, or the entrance ramp of 635 southbound. But the ramps from one street to another, Total Traffic Network would word it kind of weird, and I'm sorry that I don't have an example for you, but it would say something like southbound I-20 ramp to northbound I-35. See, it gives you two different on streets, but it's really not on either street. It's on the ramp from one street to another. So that's the one circumstance where it's not really on a street, it's on a ramp. So be ready for that circumstance. But usually, as you can see in this picture, something happens on a street. And 635, though it goes under US 80 eastbound, it never intersects with it. So it can't be on two streets at one time. And it can't be at two streets at one time, because if it is, then what street is it on? So never say at twice in a report, and never say on twice in an issue. Oops. This is a video of me driving down southbound 635 LBJ. I actually ran into a wreck up here and thought it might help explain the point. I'm currently on southbound 635 LBJ, and you can see traffic starting to slow up here. Oh, my video's not playing. Traffic is starting to slow up here. The slowdowns are actually on southbound 635 LBJ. I'm taking the exit to 20 eastbound, so I'm not on 20 eastbound yet. I am currently on the ramp from southbound 635 to eastbound I-20, and it's a pretty long ramp. And you can see over here on 635 LBJ, all this traffic is backed up. We're about to see why. I'm still on this clear and free ramp, not yet on I-20. Okay, it's right there. You see there's a wreck on the right shoulder. And this is the ramp to I-20, so you would say it's at I-20. It's not on I-20, but it's at I-20, the intersection of I-20. Even though they don't intersect, you won't ever wait for traffic to cross. That's the cross-reference point that people will know. That's the point it's at. So, this is an example of the way you would see those backups. Just after the split causing 35 southbound to back up to 635. The split is where we saw the slowdowns. The split from 635, between 635 southbound. It would really be a ramp in that case, but sometimes a highway splits off into two different highways, like 80 splitting off into 30. That would be a split. And occasionally, you may have backups onto another highway. But usually the backups are on the same highway that the wreck is on. So the wreck is on northbound 75 Central Expressway, blocking the right two lanes. The backups are on that highway, and they're stretching to Northwest Highway. This is one of the exceptions, but you'll see it says specifically what street it extends to if there is an exception. Here's a visual for you. This is 635 southbound and northbound, and this is I-30 eastbound and westbound. It looks like they cross, but if you've ever taken either of these two streets, you know there's no stoplights where you wait for the other highway to cross. That's just not an efficient way to build highways. They build them under or over each other, and you barely notice an intersection. But if a wreck happens right here on the northbound side of 635, they would say it was on northbound 635 at I-30, even though I-30 drivers won't be affected. Same for going eastbound 30. If it happened right here, they would say it's at 635. But they'd very much say the same thing if it was on eastbound I-30 at North Galloway Avenue. Doesn't affect drivers on North Galloway Avenue, except maybe a lot of people are trying to exit, but that's the cross-reference street. So it affects people on the street, not at the at street. Like at Oates Drive on southbound 635, Oates drivers won't really notice too much of an effect. And here's a picture a little better for you so that you can see that they really don't intersect, they go under each other. And these are the ramps. This would be the ramp from I-30 eastbound to 635 southbound. Actually, probably the ramp from northbound 635 to westbound I-30. But the main point of this is never say on Main Street and Park Street, or on Main Street and South Hall Street, or on I-30 and Highway 161, because it's not on two roads unless it fell off of one and onto another. Then it's a huge black wreck. But most of the time it's on and at. On and at. And it's not at Main Street at South Hall Street either. You're going to have one on and one at for most of your issues. And sometimes your at, remember, is not just an at, but it could be before, near, between, something like that.